A distraction from the economy. Investors are still waiting on health care and tax reform, and some think Twitter is to blame. 71% of Americans believe President Trump's tweets are hurting his agenda. This, according to a new Fox News poll just out. Let's bring in today's panel. Steve Forbes, Forbes Media Chairman, and Carol Roth, an entrepreneur and former investment banker. Steve, first to you. Do you think he's hurting his agenda with these things?
He certainly distracts from it, but I think the real hurt of the agenda is the floundering in the Senate and in the House. So the House still hasn't gotten a tax bill on the table, and they're still pushing Ryan, this crazy border tax. It's not going to go anywhere, but he's still pushing it. And on the Senate side, they can't agree what should go into a health care bill. That's their fault. Maybe the White House should have knocked heads, but they had the ball and they've dropped it so far. So,
Carol, what do you think? Steve thinks it's more Congress's fault than it is the president's tweets.
I'm going to agree with Steve. Surprise, surprise. As somebody who tweets very often, I will tell you it's 140 characters or less, which means it takes you 3 seconds to fire off a tweet. If anything, it is a distraction. It becomes that sort of sideshow at the circus when we need to be focused on the main stage. And I agree, this is on Congress. Congress needs to get together, to work together, and to get things done. And I think that they're making some strategic mistakes. They're prioritizing health care over tax reform, which should be easier to get done, get that win, then focus on health care.
I think Steve would agree with you on that. Melissa and me too. But Steve, is it possible that he could combine the tweet story with the tax story? Why doesn't he focus the tweet attention on Congress, saying, look, you guys got to get with it?
I think hopefully after the 4th of July weekend, as the short strokes come, because you've got Labor Day on the horizon, then people are going to be looking at 2018. I hope the White House will be pushing. If they have something ready on the tax side from Treasury, they should get that out there. And what I think is going to happen on the tax side, David, is big major reform not going to happen. I think you're going to see what Reagan did 35 years ago. Across the board, tax cuts, 25–30%.
I like
personal and corporate, and leave the big heavy lift on reform for a later time. Get a big tax rate cut now.
Good.
All right. Congress is leaving town as the Obamacare repeal remains in limbo, and Republican Senator Ben Sasse is suggesting a plan B.
Every Republican in the U.S. Senate, except for one, has already voted for repeal in the past. Let's do that first. If we can't do them together, let's do as much repeal as we can, and then let's have the president ask us to cancel our August state work period and stay here and then work on replace separate.
So the president also weighing in today, tweeting, if Republican senators are unable to pass what they are working on now, they should immediately repeal and then replace at a later date. Steve, this seems like a giant trap to me, though. You know, they repeal, and then I feel like the Democrats have so much leverage because they've taken away health care. So the Democrats have all this leverage to say you have to do what we want in order to put it back and to fix it.
Well, it depends whether they can find a parliamentary maneuver to be able to do 51 votes instead of 60. And repeal of the fact that they don't have anything in place yet certainly would be a lash at their backs to get something done before they go home for this year and voters say, why are you throwing me out on the street? The Democrats have won the narrative on this so far. Most Americans think this is going to deprive people, tens of millions of people, of health care, which isn't true, but the Republicans have lost the narrative.
Yeah, Carol, it is not true. What do they do now?
I think it would be a mistake to break things up, even though I love entrepreneurial ideas and a different approach. I think in this particular case, there is so much sensitivity, regardless on how much may be true and how much of it is rhetoric. I think you need to have a very comprehensive free market solution that employs choices, that allows people to access care, let everybody access care, access it affordably, and of course have that lead to good care, because that's one of the things that's currently missing. Right now we have something that's not affordable and you're not getting the care. So even though we'd like to get rid of that, we need to have that solution in place. I don't think you can split them up.
Right now, care and insurance, not necessarily the same thing. Meanwhile, both the House and Senate health care bills repeal the Obamacare 3.8% surcharge on investment taxes, but at least one Republican now says that's negotiable. Steve, should it be?
No. They should get rid of all of those taxes. And the idea that that's just going to discourage the base, disgust voters with Republicans, that they can't even get an investment tax off, which will help the economy by encouraging investment and risk-taking. These guys are going to back off of that because they're afraid of criticism from Charles Schumer. What a bunch of... I'll just stop there.
Okay. Carol, getting back to your point of trying to get the free market back in health care, because it's been pushed out time and time again over the past 8 years, they want to expand the health savings accounts and medical savings accounts by allowing people to deduct from their taxes the money that they have to pay because of these high deductibles. Do you think that at least is a good idea?
Absolutely. I think that it's one component, but I don't think it is a total solution to the problem. I think the biggest problem that we've faced all along is that there isn't choice. There isn't competition amongst the states throughout the country to be able, if I live in Illinois, I can't buy a great plan if it's based out of New York City. And so having that choice for me, that I can find something that's affordable and then leads to care, I think that has to be part of the solution, regardless of what other components are in there.